Hello, everybody. I am just jumping in before today's episode. I am having an amazing conversation with Mr. Peter Walsh himself, and it became such an incredible conversation, and we just kept on chatting. And so what I've done is actually split this episode into two. So today you're going to hear part one, and then next Monday we'll be dropping part two. So enjoy and make sure that you come back next week for the second half. Hello and welcome to the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm your host, Amy Revell, and this week I'm with a very special guest. I've got Peter Walsh with me. Hello, Peter.
Hi, great to be here.
Again? Mm-hmm. It is very lovely to have you. You haven't left. You haven't left. Because last time you were in lockdown, do you remember you were in some quarantine facility and going a little bit stir crazy?
I was in a hotel in Sydney in lockdown, I do remember.
Yeah, and you were putting Post-it notes on the window and communicating with people. Is that right?
You have a much better memory than I do.
It's just come to me.
I know. It was, to be honest, I was in lockdown for 2 weeks in Sydney and I kind of enjoyed every minute of it.
Really?
I know that's weird. Yeah, I really like isolation. I like being by myself. I like a bit of time just to collect myself. And I didn't turn on a TV. I didn't listen to a radio.
You didn't even turn the TV on?
Nope, for 2 weeks.
Peter, did you have books? Was that what you were doing?
Yeah, I read. I wrote a lot, and I really like. I guess I live a pretty crazy, busy life, and so the ability to just withdraw and spend a bit of kind of contemplative time, I really, really enjoy that. And so I kind of liked it. And
it's kind of the tilt. I guess you kind of tilt into busy, and then when you can tilt into solitude, you really tilt it into solitude.
I love it. Yeah, I know. And it drives a lot of people. Well, it surprises a lot of people, I think. But, I like it.
That's really nice.
So, I'd actually forgotten that. But, I was putting silly Post-it notes up on the window.
I think you were only a couple of days in when we spoke to you. But I
came out relatively unscathed.
Came out all right. Well, you were doing a big exercise routine. I remember that.
I do. I did a lot of exercise.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, and I still laugh about it, my partner and I both had to go into quarantine, and we decided to fly out from the States on 2 separate flights because the joke was that if we both went into a hotel room with no windows for 2 weeks, we'd both go in fine, but only one of us would come out alive.
One would come out alive.
Exactly.
Had nothing to do with COVID.
No, nothing to do with COVID.
Wise choice.
That's another story. Anyway, I think let's move on from this rabbit hole, or else
we could rabbit hole forever.
Nothing good will come of this conversation. Anyway,
so you're in Australia this time. You're recording season 4. You've just wrapped, haven't you?
We've just finished shooting 10 new episodes of season 4 of Space Invaders, and it's actually been a great exercise and a wild ride. It's interesting shooting post-COVID. It's been a very different season. I think that it's very interesting how different this season has been, and I think that the world has fundamentally changed since COVID. And I think I'm seeing a very different space. I'm seeing a few different things. I think there's a level of sadness in the world.
Yeah.
Certainly in it's not a massive sampling, I'll admit, but there's a level of sadness that I haven't seen before, and I think coupled with social media, there's a level of disconnect that I haven't seen before. And although everyone is carrying a cell phone and everyone is connected, certainly through the internet, just because you're connected to the internet doesn't mean you're connected to other people. And one of the things that I find really disturbing is there's this level of disconnectedness that I find among people, that I'm seeing among people that I'm dealing with, that I've dealt with both on the show in helping people deal with the clutter in their homes and through the clients that I'm speaking with. And I find it very disturbing in that many people, more people perhaps than ever before it seems, are attempting to seek happiness, attempting to find fulfillment through stuff, through the acquisition of stuff. And there is this great push and a perpetuation of the myth that if you just buy the right stuff, if you just acquire, if you just buy the right things, if you just purchase the right things, you can acquire the life that you want. That happiness comes with stuff. And I see more and more that people's homes are littered with stuff and their lives are littered with kind of unfulfilled promises that they had hoped that this stuff would bring them, this lack of happiness that they think will come with the stuff. And it's been interesting shooting season 4 of Space Invaders that again and again people come with this, often with kind of a sense of despair, with deep unhappiness and sadness that they have built up, homes and lives, often with beautiful stuff, and yet with a sense of sadness, with a sense of loneliness or emptiness that all of this stuff hasn't brought what they wanted. Exactly.
And I think there was opportunity at the start of lockdowns and the start of kind of this isolating period in COVID. There was opportunity for us as a society to acknowledge we're lonely, we are not happy, and actually push into that and discover why. But instead, what I saw so many people do is go, oh my goodness, I'm lonely. Oh, this doesn't feel right. I've got to do something about it. And I can't go out. And so I'm just going to buy.
Yeah, that's absolutely part of it. But I think it's more than that. I think that in lockdown, people turned a lot to social media, and people looked at social media as a way of reflecting what others' lives were.
Yeah.
And I think that while what we see on our devices is called social media, there's nothing social about it. That what it reflects is not reality.
No, it's very performative.
Yeah. And so we look at it and think that what we're seeing is what other people's lives are. And it's absolutely not what other people's lives are. And so we hold what we have up to that standard. And when we do that, we are constantly lacking. And that's what I see, that we think we are connected, but what we think we are connected to is actually an illusion.
Yeah, and it actually disconnects us from the thing that we wish we were connected to.
That's exactly it. And so I see that COVID has come along at a time that I'm not exactly sure how to explain this, but the appearance of COVID has come at a time at a rise of social media when COVID has created kind of a great opportunity for people to focus even more on social media.
Yeah.
And social media has created kind of a more focused window into social media, and that has exacerbated this view that social media is what other people's lives are about, and suddenly people are feeling even more wanting or lacking, and so that then perpetuates this idea that I need to go out and buy stuff.
Yeah,
and it just perpetuates this whole myth that more is better. That if I buy the right stuff, I can acquire the life that I want. Instead of seeking happiness through experiences, seeking happiness through a real personal connectedness, rather than through this weird non-connectedness through a device.
And that ironically, as we're wanting to connect with people, we feel connected because we own the same stuff, we wear the same stuff, we listen to the same music, we go for the same sports team, we live in the same city, we eat at the same restaurant. But that doesn't connect us to the person at all. It just makes us part of a tribe, which is what we're wanting. And then I think there's the relationship, like having good relationships releases good hormones in your body. Like having a hug, having a cup of tea with a friend, all of that is good. And what I'm seeing is people go online and online purchase, getting that dopamine hit and not even opening the package when it arrives.
Well, it's not only, the former is not only good, but it's longer lasting.
Yes, good point.
Whereas the buying of stuff is good but short lived.
Yeah.
See, and that's the difference. That establishing a real relationship, establishing a real connectedness with a person, it is longer lasting, if not life lasting. Because that's the nature of a real relationship with a person. And when things get tough, I mean, I think of a great personal example. I've been going through a very difficult personal issue, and I have a that I found very difficult to talk to anyone about, for example. And the night before last, I have a very, very close friend here in Melbourne, and I phoned her and went out to dinner with her the night before last, and I've known her for over 30 years. And I went out to dinner with her, and in speaking with her, that connectedness helped me deal with that personal issue in a way that no way could I have dealt with that through some social media connectedness.
No.
And I think that, and, it's interesting, and I could even show you, I sent her a note, after getting home from dinner that and I used the word enduring, that I love that enduring friendship.
Yeah.
And it's funny that's the exact word I use.
That is the word, because that's intentional.
Yeah.
That is work.
Yeah.
And that is like it's satisfying, not just enjoyable.
Yeah. And I think that's what it comes back to. And I think that's the difference, and I think, working, you and I have just come from a coffee before we started this, talking about the role of professional organisers, the role of our responsibility in society. And I think that's in a real state of flux at the moment. Yeah. And I'm deliberately kind of creating a segue here for us. But I think that it's an issue about, what is our role, vis-a-vis stuff, and I'm very confused about that myself at the moment, because having come through, spending 15 weeks, shooting and being so close to people and each week it's a different couple, a different family, each with different issues, whether it's around, divorce or separation or abuse or trauma or loss or grief. They're all the issues that underlie, in my experience, people's difficulties with their stuff. That coming away from that, it's never, as we said, having a coffee, it's never about the stuff. But, how do we deal with those issues in a broader community sense when people's natural reaction is to go for the quick fix, to go for the purchase, when time and again we see that, I've been doing this for 20 years now, and the frustration for me is that nothing has changed in that regard.
No, except that we've made it much easier to have those needs filled quickly.
Yeah.
So, when I first became an adult, I remember thinking, okay, what I'm going to do, if I'm going to spend over a certain dollar amount, I'll sit on it for a week. Mm-hmm. Now you don't even have to sit on it for a minute.
No.
It's there, it's easily accessible, and we make it easy, which is actually like robbing people. Like it gets on my goat, because it's like trying to satisfy hunger by taping bread to yourself. Like, it's not going to work.
Well, I had a situation, just in the last 10 weeks where I had a parent say, whenever I go out and I take my child with me, my young child with me, I buy them something. And when I asked why, the parents said, well, I feel this is the best way to give my child happiness. Like that. And if you just stop and the child is 6, I buy them something every time we go out, because that's the best way to buy, and the exact words were to buy them happiness.
Wow. And I think the hard thing is, part of that sentiment is true. In the moment that you buy the kid the thing they want, they will smile, they will be affectionate, they will, show signs of happiness. But when they come home and they're overwhelmed and they're overstimulated and there's no adult there to, talk to them and engage with them, you're not buying long-term happiness.
No, but it's worse than that. It's worse than that, because what you're doing is you are effectively creating a spoiled, entitled, rude, obnoxious child who will grow up to be an entitled, rude, obnoxious, privileged teenager who, when they get to that stage, you're going to say, how did this person become like this? And it's because you created this person.
Or you're going to blame it on society when actually the responsibility as parents. I mean, people often say to me, you've got very unique children. So my kids are very non-consumeristic. They don't want presents. They don't want Christmas presents. They're just not into it. And people are like, oh, that's just how they are. And I'm like, actually, there is a real intentionality in our family that we don't just buy stuff. But what I've noticed over the last couple of years is as we've really cut back on purchasing, buying, consuming, we are entertaining more. We're connecting more. We're, just doing things. We're volunteering more. Like that stuff is so much better for my family than me just going and buying the latest sports whatever that they otherwise we could afford, they would use, but is not actually satisfying them.
But it comes back to me. For me, it comes back again and again watching homes, coming into homes. I mean, I stood back when we were bringing stuff out of one home. We decluttered a garage and a spare bedroom in one home. And out of that home we took, and it was the record for this past season, we took 526 moving boxes worth of stuff.
Yeah, not shoe boxes, people.
No, those mid-sized moving packing boxes. 500.
No wonder they were overwhelmed.
526 out of a garage and a spare bedroom. 2 rooms.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and it's no surprise that when we talk about feeling overwhelmed with clutter, we use words like, I felt like I was drowning, I couldn't breathe, I felt buried. I mean, they're the words that we use because we know instinctively that that's what too much stuff does to us. I mean, they're the words that spring unbidden from us because that's what we know that stuff does to us.
But I bet when you're finished, you've taken a weight off my shoulders. I feel lighter. I feel free. I feel like I'm floating.
But it's even more than that, that every single time that we declutter a space where there are children involved, when kids come back into those spaces, the children dance.
I've heard you say this once, and I've been watching it. It happens and every time.
Well, and it's funny, I've got my cell phone here in front of me. And even as recently as last week, I'll just quickly see if I can find this this email that someone sent to me. Where is it here? As recently as last week, seriously, and I didn't plan this, I got this, "Hi Peter, I'm from Canada. I enjoy your books and podcasts. I wanted to share this. We recently decluttered our office, which over the years became more of a clutter storage room. Our older kid wanted a space to work out. This evening, when he saw the cleared out room, he danced around the room. I think it's the first time he's danced since he was a toddler. He's now 15. Like
the best.
Now, completely unbidden, and that's
what freedom looks like.
And I think that it's so interesting that spontaneity in kids. They know that an uncluttered, organised open space gives rise to so many I'm sorry, words are I can't find the words. So many things that you can't describe, like motivation, creativity,
inspiration,
all those things that you can't do in a cluttered, disorganized space.
And you don't realize that you're not doing them.
Yeah.
Often we'll have people say, "Oh, I'm really into craft." I'm like, "Great, where do you do craft?" Oh, well, I haven't for a couple of years because I don't have a spot. All right.
Yeah.
But as soon as you've cleared it, they'll send you a text message. Look what I just created.
But it's true also of love and connectedness and intimacy.
Yeah.
It's all those ethereal things that exist, but stuff gets in the way of. And so you have to open the space to let real human emotion flow into it. And I think that for me, and I don't know how to do this, but we also mentioned this over coffee, that it's not so much anymore, I think, about clearing stuff from spaces, but it's about somehow stopping the stuff coming into spaces in the first place, which is about reverse consumerism.
Correct. And I think it's once, like I say to people, it's getting us into declutter, having a professional organizer, brilliant. Like it's well worth your money, you'll have great outcomes. But if you can't stop the flow, you're going to end up back here. You can be as organized as anyone. You can be as organized as Peter and Amy combined. But if you've got too much stuff, you're going to drown again. How do we, like, if you got to do a TED Talk and the title was consumerism, what are you wanting to, like, express and educate people around consumerism? Because it is huge.
But it goes back to, and I mean, it goes back to the 1800s, I think. Someone, and I can't remember who said it, but, you know, the most famous line is you should only have things in your home that you know to be useful and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting you should live as a monk or that, you know, you should be a minimalist. You know, I'm not a subscriber to either of those lifestyles. But if the things you have in your home don't help you to create the life that you want, then why are they in your home?
Yeah. I think a lot of that is around this imagined future, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to be someone who hosts events, so of course I need 15 platters.
Well, all of this aspirational bullshit. I
Yeah.
mean, that's part of the problem. And, you know, and that comes back to advertising and marketing. You know, it exists to help you create an imaginary life. And we all very easily get sucked into that. You know, I call that the product and the promise. That's my,
That's
you know,
great.
you buy the product, but you invest in the promise.
Which is why it's harder to get rid of it, isn't it?
Of course.
Because it's not just about that piece of plastic that you bought.
No, you know, you buy the exercise machine, the product, but you invest in the promise that if it's in your house, somehow you'll be fit. Yeah, it looks great. It looks great for hanging clothes.
Correct.
On. You know, you invest in, you know, in the 15-piece, you know, dinner service.
Yeah.
But you're really investing in the promise that somehow you'll have great dinner parties. And that's what I see. You know, I come back to what I said before. You know, homes are full of all of these products, but lives are littered with all of these unfulfilled promises. So, and it's the nexus between the product, the purchase of the product, and the unfulfilled promise that somehow has to be broken. But that's the power of marketing and advertising. That's why tables in McDonald's are painted yellow, because yellow enhances appetites.
Yeah.
You know, that's why the floor in a lot of department stores have a rippled surface, because the rippled surface makes you stop. You know,
really?
Yes. It makes you stop in that spot when you hit the rippled surface, because that's where the best sales are.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
That's exactly. I mean, it's all done. It's all done to stop literally and look at what's for sale.
We used to play a game with my kids, and I can't remember if I've told you this before, when they were probably 3 and 4 years old and we were driving along in the car, and I would say, all right, we're going to test out marketing. And I would say, I want you to tell me if it's true or false. A Happy Meal makes you happy. And they'd scream out from the back, false. I'm like, why is that false? It's a Happy Meal. Of course it makes you happy. And then we'd kind of go through different slogans and be like, is that what it's promising? And I think we stop questioning that as we get older. Maybe we're just so used to it, but actually taking a step back and being a conscious consumer and being intentional. I mean, I don't know the magic pill to help us get there.
There is none.
Come on.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, there just isn't.
No.
I mean, you know, it's about mindfulness. It's about, you know, being considered. You know, all those things. I mean, I don't know. You know, I really don't. I don't know that there's an answer to any of this.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's naive to just say, you know, it's naive on your part or my part to say, you know, there's a simple solution.
If there was, you and I would be screaming it from the rooftops and not actually working with, like, we work with people on their mindsets and their relationships and their emotional clutter and their physical clutter. If there was a magic bullet, I promise people we're not holding it back from you. Keeping it to ourselves, Pete.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know what the answer to this is. You know, for me, a lot of it is just exposure. You know, it's so much exposure to seeing what so much stuff does to so many people's lives. And for me, I'll be absolutely blunt. I find that kind of soul destroying.
Yeah.
It really, after 20 years, I find personally I have to step back from it.
Yes, because you've seen it so much. And yeah.
And I've seen, the destructive nature of the pursuit of stuff in lieu of happiness.
What do you think, if you look over that 20 years and you've got, I imagine you can think of people that you've worked with who have broken that hold of consumerism and have gone on to live really fulfilled, happy, connected lives, and then there'll be other people whose homes or lives have gone completely back or further back.
I don't think it's that black and white.
Do you think there's a difference though in the scope of that?
I think you've got to be really careful not to sell it as that.
Yeah, okay.
I think you've got to be really careful, Amy, not to sell it as that much of a fairy tale.
As in, sometimes you can keep the perfect life, and sometimes
no one has the perfect life.
No, gosh, no.
Okay,
no,
and I don't think you can say, those people who get rid of it all and go on to live a perfectly.
Yes, that's very fair. Yeah,
okay.
Good.
That doesn't happen. No,
no, you're right.
That's none of us.
Yeah,
that's no one.
Oh my goodness, isn't Peter just a wealth of wisdom and insight and so much experience that he brings to the professional organising conversation? As you would know, that was just the first half of my conversation with Peter. So make sure you come back next week to listen to part 2. He's got so much gold to share in part 2 that you're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you're subscribed in whatever podcast player that you are listening in now, and it will pop up in your feed next week. Until then, enjoy the freedom. I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land this podcast is recorded on. I would also like to pay respects to their elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love you to rate and review the show on your podcast app. That will help others to find the Art of Decluttering podcast as well. If you'd like any more information, you can visit theartofdecluttering.com.au, and I would love to see you in my Facebook group. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook and join today. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day and enjoy the freedom.